March 6, 1836, approximately 5:30 in the morning. The Mexican army launches their final assault after a 13-day siege of the Alamo. Portrayed here in Legos, we have the final look over of this project. I've put a few little pictures on some of the Facebook groups and kind of leaked out a few photos. And my cousin Clark, who did this phenomenal work of replicating the iconic Mission Chapel facade, he did a YouTube video with it, and then kind of a quick layout that he put together before he boxed that up and sent that up to where I live, along with a lot of the Army. So a big shout out to him for his help on this mock, and our collaboration together. We live a few states apart, makes it a challenge, but we throw a lot of ideas at each other, and kind of excited to do some more stuff in the future. Me and him, years and years ago, enjoyed Legos when we were younger, and I kind of took a break from it. Yeah, well, just, you know, life's busy, did lots of other things, and kind of this is my first time building stuff again, refamiliarizing myself with some new pieces that are out. It was really cool. Learned there's some new colors that were really helpful. So I'm going to turn the lights up on this, but I did kind of want to do just a few shots with it, kind of dim like this, to try to showcase our attempt at the burning thatched roof there. And you're probably noticing that there are a lot more of the blue Mexican Army than there is of the Texan defenders. Anybody familiar with the history of the Alamo knows that they were extremely outnumbered. Exact number of defenders ranges from probably 200 to no more than 300. I saw a lot of different numbers in there, and then the amount of that the Mexican Army had, maybe 2,000, but only maybe 1,500 of them actually divided up into a couple different columns for the final assault. There's a lot about this battle, for being a relatively modern one, that still eludes historians to this day. The events leading up to it are well documented, and I'm not going to get into a lot of that of the Texan Revolution. It's a very fascinating story, a lot of colorful characters, there is a lot of details to it. The Alamo, the most famous event, but definitely was not the end, I guess you could say, and it wasn't the beginning. There was a lot before this. This was kind of the most iconic, pivotal one, definitely the most influential. The battle cry, "Remember the Alamo," came about shortly after the total massacre that occurred here, kind of unified the Texan citizens, people who might have been kind of on the fence about joining in the rebellion against their, at that time, the country of Mexico, which had, well, Santa Anna had taken over, become basically a military dictator throughout the Constitution of Mexico, and went back on a lot of policies, land deals and stuff that the Spanish had originally granted a lot of the Texan citizens, many of whom had come from the United States of America. This naturally, of course, upset them. And Texas was not the only Mexican state to rebel over Santa Anna, but won't go into any more of that now. I'm going to pause this for a second and get some little better lights going on here, and then we can work our way around the mission. And if you find my yakking away annoying, just go ahead and mute it, but hope it'll be an enjoyable video to watch. And this here is the gate. You see some of the Mexican armies force their way in there. There's that 18-pounder, and you'll notice that, yeah, it got turned around. The Mexicans grabbed it and turned it around and shot it into the mission. In this little room here, get in there and see Jim Bowie. Try to focus that a little better for you. Holding the Bowie knife. He was sick with a fever. and he would have been the kind of the commander of the Alamo defenders, but his sickness prevented that, and people familiar with the story I know more of that. All right, there's a good shot there. You can see that wall there with the remnants of the old church that would have been right here. And this section here is called the Low Barrack, where Jim Bowie was, and the entrance to the Alamo mission. And then this little structure here of the kitchen. These custom-made cannons were made by my cousin. Did a really cool job of that. They're more scale appropriate to the minifigs. But we left the 18-pounder in the original Lego style, just, I don't know, to kind of help illustrate the fact that it's the biggest one. So, again, I apologize for the bad camera work. This is probably about my third attempt to make it nice, and anyways, I'm learning, and learning a lot more mock building ideas, concepts, and techniques. This whole project has been a great learning experience. Learned a lot about the Alamo history, kind of cracked open a lot more books than I had read before, and then the study of the structure as it would have appeared, the evolution of it over time from the mission period to it being turned into a kind of a rudimentary fort, and then of course to what it may have appeared during the famous battle. That's quite a history in itself, and I'm going to show you the book that we used later. It's kind of hard to find one source that was really thorough and complete, that showed every building, every structure. If you watch the movies that have been made, the two most famous, of course, there's the John Wayne one, which features numerous historical inaccuracies with the structure of the fort, and then the more recent one that was done with Billy Bob Thornton, I think it was, in 2003 or 4, somewhere in there. That one's a little better at some of the historical details, but for the sake of being able to do a big camera angle shot, they put this here, long barrack, further back, and they don't have that correctly. That's just one particular detail. And so anyways, after these movies, that movie came out, this book author, kind of frustrated with all of that, he decided to make an authoritative guide and published a beautiful book of the Alamo as it would have appeared during the battle. And I will show you that here next. Okay, here is the book, The Illustrated Alamo 1836, A Photographic Journey by Mark Lemon. He consulted a lot of sources, and what he came up with is a book. It's kind of unique, and it's unique in that it doesn't really spend much time describing the Battle of the Alamo and the characters in it, but rather the structure of the Alamo compound. Here's kind of a close-up plan, detailed drawing of the church. What he did, after all of his research, was he built a scaled model of the Alamo fortress as it would have appeared on that day, and photographed it, and then I think he did some kind of digital editing in the backgrounds and made this beautiful book. So any of you that are serious Alamo history fanatics, this is an excellent source to have, and I'd say is probably the most thorough and most complete study done to date of the Alamo structure as it appeared. And so serious students of the battle, it would be a definite must-have in your library. And yep, right over there we got a brick separator. You can see you got some Mexican guys there. Looks like they're getting ready to try to get access into that little building there. Doing the historical Lego Mocs is it's fun, and I enjoy history. I enjoy the study of it, and then to replicate something in Lego, something me and my cousin both enjoy doing. But it does have its challenges. I also like to have a little more artistic license, and doing the Alamo is, we're trying to replicate it and keep it true to what was in that book the best that we could. But it does kind of mean that some of these buildings I don't get to be as creative, and they are basically wrecked out structures. I mean, you look at some of these, they're pretty basic buildings, and they're not overly exciting in a lot of ways, but they are as best as we could historically correct, and that was the main goal with doing this. Do a few more views around here. This has been a while in the making. Glad to finally get it done. Really excited to move on to the next one. I hope to do more videos. Maybe I'll learn to do them a little better. With a lot of these blue-coated guys, they'll make great additions to a future pirate, Imperial Army kind of mock. That's another one of my favorite Lego genres. Santa Anna was really obsessed with Napoleon, so these uniforms are correct, historically correct. Napoleon was Santa Anna's idol, and he kind of described himself as the Napoleon of the West. At least he intended to become the Napoleon of the West, but didn't necessarily go that way for him. And he's an interesting character for sure, as were a lot of the other famous people that were here at the Alamo. Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, Colonel Travis. All very colorful and unique characters that all add to the mystique and the myth and the legends that have arisen around this very otherwise tragic and pretty bloody battle that cost a lot of lives. Adjust this, and I'll do another shot close in here of the chapel. Go ahead, leave your comments, critiques. This is all going to come apart here soon, unfortunately. It just takes up a lot of space, not going to be able to store it forever, and there's a lot of valuable pieces here that will go into a future mock. We'll keep that chapel intact and probably put it back to resemble the way that the Alamo appears today. But a lot of the rest of this is going to get repurposed to future mocks, and the next one that's already in the design process and planning, well, the only hint I guess I'll give you is that it is Wild West themed. Alrighty, thank you for your patience and viewing this. It's exciting to see the comments that I have seen on this as I've unveiled little bits of it over time. They've been encouraging that people are interested in it, and I guess the challenge is out there to do other Alamos. Maybe somebody else will do one that's better, and hopefully they're a better camera operator than I am. Anyhow, I will warn you though, if anybody does try to do one, you're going to need a big space dedicated for a while. And a lot of tan bricks. So, anyhow, thank you very much.